while Noah's helping here. So I was gone for about 2 weeks, and went with a group of students. So this was a student-led mission trip. Godfrey, Mianda, Moaba Chibwe, and Thomas Musa. All three of them happened to be from Zambia. Thomas, his parents are from Rwanda, but during the genocide, they fled, and so he was born in Zambia and grew up in a refugee camp there. So the three of them are from Zambia, and so I went along with them. They arranged everything. I was just there for support, but it was a really nice experience working together with the students on this mission trip. And a lot of things happen, a lot of things that you have to adjust to when you're on a mission trip in a new country, new surroundings. But I had a wonderful experience. The people are very, very nice, very hospitable and welcoming. Actually, I was, sometimes when you travel abroad, you're like, you can be a little tense and fearful. You don't know the area, but Zambia happens to be, one of the safest countries in Africa. It has been heavily influenced by Christianity, and I think, thank you. Praise the Lord for those who can handle technology. Sometimes it can be challenging. So, as Eduardo read in the text, we have been given a commission to go into all the world by Jesus Christ himself, and he's given us this commission to take the gospel to the world, and I'm thankful for the privilege to have gone, again, with some of the students, and also thankful for the Amicus Church family who partnered, because without your help and support, we could not go. So this is a combined effort. Not all go, but many times those who go only can go because of generous people who have contributed. And so in a sense, I could say what Paul said. If you have your Bibles, turn to Philippians chapter 1, verses 2 through 5. Philippians chapter 1. Verses 2 to 5, the Apostle Paul is writing to the church there in Philippi, and he says, "Grace be unto you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. I thank my God upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you all, making requests with joy for your" what? "Fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now." Now, one of the ways that the church there in Philippi partnered together with the Apostle Paul in ministry and the fellowship of the gospel was through their generous givings. The Apostle Paul mentions how time and again, when he was in need, the church at Philippi came to his aid. If you go to chapter 4, you see this. In chapter 4, he brings us back to the same point which he started the epistle with. He says in verse 15, "Now ye Philippians know also that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church communicated with me as concerning giving and receiving, but ye only. For even in Thessalonica ye sent once and again unto my necessities. Not because I desire a gift, but I desire fruit that may abound to your account." So it's interesting, he thanks God and he praises God for the church at Philippi because they partnered with him in the gospel ministry. He says, time and again they sent for his necessities, and because of that, he says, he thanks God for this because he says it wasn't that he desired a gift from them, but he desired fruit that may abound to your account, to their account. So they participated in the labors. The fruit of Paul's ministry is not just because of Paul, but because of the church at Philippi, because they also gave and supported the apostle in his missionary journeys. And so, again, I also want to thank the Amicus Church family for your partnership in the gospel ministry. Without your support and those of others who gave generously, this trip would have not been a possibility. It would have just been a nice idea that we wanted to do, but never actually were able to do it. So, we went to Zambia. So here's a map of Africa. There you can get a picture of Zambia. So one of the things that I was pleasantly surprised is that, as you can see, Zambia is towards the southern part, and we are in summer here, but down on that side, they are in winter. And I thank the Lord because we had it was like fall weather here. Fall or spring weather, and that means we did not, just one place we saw a little bit of mosquitoes, but there was barely any mosquitoes. Nice cool weather. We were up there preaching with suit and tie, and I didn't sweat. So I was thankful to the Lord for that small thing. But so if you plan to travel to Africa, definitely during this time if you don't like to sweat, this is a great time to visit. So we were there in Zambia, and the first part of the trip was in Lusaka, which is the capital city of Zambia. And we had organized, the students had helped organize some crusades there in the city. We had a 14-night crusade. The students went a little bit before I got there, and they started off the meetings. So we had 3 different sites and 3 different speakers. So in one of the sites, Godfrey was there, and I teamed up with Godfrey. So once I arrived, I took over the rest of the meetings. Then at the other site, we had Thomas Musa, and then the other site was Moaba Chibwe. So each of us were in different sites. We were all staying in the same location, the same home. And each evening we would go off to our respective sites and preach. So we would arrive there around 6 o'clock, and people, for the setup and everything, and people would start arriving. They would have a long song service. The song service was the way of drawing in people. They had these big loudspeakers, and where they had set up the pulpit. You can't see it that good there in the picture, but they built that thing from scratch. Okay, so that thing was the pulpit platform. It was all built, and it was like in the middle of like it's kind of like a park. The kids would come to play soccer there, and in front of the park was like a marketplace, and behind us was a bunch of houses where people lived in. So they had these loudspeakers, and many times I would talk with someone after the meetings, and they said, yeah, we were hearing you preach, and so we decided to come. So some people, and they were telling me, some people, they might not even come, but they just put their chair outside in front of their door, and they just listened from their home, because we had, again, those loudspeakers made the messages go out far and wide. And we had, sometimes when we finished the meetings, like I mentioned, sometimes people would come up to me and say, yeah, I started hearing you. I was in the marketplace. One lady said I was at the bus stop waiting for the bus, and I started hearing you. And then I just decided this night to come in person. So thankful that the Lord blessed and we had those speakers available that made the message go far and wide. Another thing that we did there is health expos. So we combined medical missionary work with the gospel presentation, and that was a great blessing. Ellen White tells us in the book Counsels on Health, page 532, medical missionary work is the pioneer work, and it is to be connected with the gospel ministry. Why? Because it's the gospel practiced, the gospel practically carried out. We were thankful for the partnership and help of Brother Hobie, who's a medical missionary, and he has a lot of connections with people. He helped connect us with about 30 young people from the university that are studying medicine. So some of them were in their second, third, fourth year of medicine, and he helped us. We rented some vans and got them all. So remember, we had 3 different sites, so we had 3 different health expos at each site. So we had over 30 medical students, and we split them up on each site. They came out and helped us in these expos. So they helped with the screening part, and then we had other medical missionaries that joined with us who were doing the part of giving like the health talks and health information, lifestyle things that the people could practice and do to help with their different health challenges. But it was a wonderful experience. So this helped bring a lot of people to the meetings when they saw that free health screenings and health expos were being done. Many people came as a result of that, and it was another opportunity to interact with the people, pray with different individuals who were coming, and again, as a result of the health expos, some people would then stay later on in the evenings for the presentation. I forgot to write down. I can't even remember how many people we that came through each of the sites, but it was a couple hundred from each site that we had going through these health expos. So that was a great blessing to have them partner with us and help us in this endeavor. This is at the church there that we were working with as the main church, or one of the main churches. Each site was with a different church. This church had a couple hundred Adventists, and so at each site that we were preaching, it was connected to a different church, and so the baptisms went from each site went to those local churches. We had a total of 31 people that were baptized. Others were still studying with them. Thankfully, what we did is we wanted the work to continue since we were only going to be there for 14 nights. The crusade was only 14 nights. We talked with the interpreters, who all 3 interpreters were excellent, very gifted, energetic interpreters. And since the people were hearing their voice and seeing their face as well as ours, we hired the interpreters to work as Bible workers, because 2 of them were pastoral students that had finished their training, but they had not, because of the lack of means, it's very difficult to get into the ministry there. I mean, just the pastor, it was one pastor for like 20 churches. Okay, so that's how the pastors stretched over there, and they don't have funds to be able to hire pastors, but so like one pastor has, could be in the, 10,000 members when you total all the churches together. So even though some young people study for the ministry, it's hard to get in because of funds. So thankfully, again, because of the contributions we received, we hired these pastoral students, graduates already, that were serving as our interpreters to follow up and do Bible work. So for the next 2 months, they're going to be continuing to work with the people that got baptized to, again, just continue to nurture them and help ground them fully in the faith, and those who wanted baptisms, but they responded to appeals later on, so they didn't have a chance to hear all the messages. They're going to continue studying, so it's very probable that we'll have more baptisms over this 8-week period that they will continue to work and minister there. So that was a great blessing. And they already started, so they started right away. These meetings we finished last Sabbath was the last one. So on Sunday, the pastoral graduates, they got to work, and so this week they've been sending me pictures and reports of the work that they're continuing to do, and it's very encouraging to see their zeal for the Lord and how they're focused there on continuing to minister to these people. We were also able to, we took great controversies, we purchased other great controversies there, and we did distribution. Now, if you've ever done literature distribution here, you know it can be a challenging, or worked as a colporteur here. But man, over there, I was just shocked that people are so receptive, okay? People are so receptive to receiving literature. And this is an important part of the work. Again, our goal was not just to go and just preach evangelistic meetings, but combine it with other forms of ministry to make the impact more enduring and longer lasting. Let me read to you a statement here from Review and Herald, June 10, 1880. It says the following: "Our publications are now sowing the gospel seed and are instrumental in bringing as many souls to Christ as the preached word." Imagine that. Our publications, they are responsible, they're instrumental in bringing as many souls to the truth as the preached word. Whole churches have been raised up as the result of their circulation. In this work, every disciple of Christ can act a part. So, in literature distribution, that's something that every member can act a part in. Not everyone can preach an evangelistic meeting, but everyone can give something, right? Give literature away. And so we engaged the church members, the youth came out to help us in the literature distribution, and we did it on different days. We did it Sabbath afternoon. We also did it on Sunday during the health expos. And again, it was just a great blessing. One of the, like I said, people are just so receptive. So we gave almost 900 copies of Great Controversy away, and it just went really, really fast. So I was standing at like a little bus stop where people would get dropped off and other people get picked up, and so someone would get off the bus, and I start talking to them, hand them the book, and start telling them about Great Controversy. This is a book that goes through the history of Christianity, and then it goes into the prophecies in the book of Revelation, and it shows how the history of the past will be repeated in the future. And so I'm talking to them, and as soon as they take it, then people that are still on the bus, they're kind of like overhearing, and they start sticking their arms out of the windows, and they're like, give me one, please. And so just, it went, all the books went really, really fast. The people were very receptive. Afterwards, we were talking with all the copies that we that we took, they were all in English. English is one of the official languages there in Zambia. But talking with Godfrey, we're going to be working to see if we can find a printer there that will print great controversy in some of the local languages to allow a greater, have a greater impact with literature ministry. Most of the young people are more familiar with English since they see it as school, but some of the older folks, they can read it, but it's very slow. So we want to try to work to see if we can find a place where we can print it in the local language, because they have printed it before, but they were all out of it. But it was a great blessing. There's Mwaba talking to some people, handing out the literature. This was on Sabbath evening with some of the people that received the books as well. And that was just a great blessing to see how receptive people are to receiving the literature. So 14-night crusade there in Lusaka, the capital of Zambia. After that, we went on our journey. So we left the city of Lusaka and we went to do rural mission work where Godfrey's village, where Godfrey grew up. It was about a 6-hour drive from Lusaka. 3 hours was on paved roads. The other 2 hours, the other 3 hours were roads that were pretty bad with a lot of potholes. I felt like if it was the driver, we had a friend of Godfrey's who was the driver, and it just felt like we were in like a little video game of like miss the potholes, because we were driving like this the whole way and braking and speeding up, and sometimes those ditches you couldn't see them very well, and we felt them. I was thankfully, one of the church members let us borrow his car, but I was very grateful, but I was kind of like, man, this was my car, poor car. It took a beating. It took a real beating. While we were there in Lusaka, we had, I can't remember her name, but great cook. She's a medical missionary, and she cooked all our meals. Delicious, really good food. Once we left Lusaka, we were on our own. And so we ate a lot of, we were always able to find like corn on the side of the road. That's what we ate. Biggest corn that I've ever had. They were really, really big, but they would just roast them there on the side of the road, and that's what we would have with bananas that they grew. I didn't get a chance to visit because of time, but one of our Adventist institutions is there, Riverside, and they grow a lot of bananas. So we didn't get to go to Riverside, but we did buy their bananas on the side of the road, and that's what most of our meals while we traveled consisted of corn and bananas. So we made it to the village. It was like around 12 at night. We finally made it. We all slept. It was 4 of us traveling in the car, and then 2 medical missionaries who were meeting us there. They helped. We bought food. We bought a lot of corn, grain, to help distribute to a number of the very poor families. In the rural villages, people are more, they have a struggle with poverty, and so we try to bring food for them, and we distributed that. But we made it late at night, and when I woke up, I wanted to see the sunrise, so I got up early, even though we didn't get much sleep, to see the sun rise, and it was just, it was a beautiful, beautiful sight. This is Godfrey's grandfather. So we got to spend time with him and some of his family members. They do, during the winter time, it's very, very dry. So this was the well where people would get water, and early in the morning, they were out there filling buckets and watering the plants. That was okra that they had planted there, okra, and then some kale. And most of the people have goats, cows, and chickens. I was wondering how they keep track of, because they're just all loose. All the cows are just wandering around, all the goats are wandering around, and all the chickens are wandering around. So I asked one of them, I was like, how do you know which chickens are yours and which cow is yours? And he's like, no, we mark them. But they're just, during the winter season, they just let them run around and find whatever food they can. And since it is very dry as well, I had the experience when I took a shower there, which was, they fill you a little bowl and you splash the water on yourself. When I'm splashing the water on, there was some chickens nearby, and all the little chicks started coming when I'm trying to take my shower to drink the water that was rolling off of me. So it was kind of it was an interesting shower experience. There was these big trees. I can't remember the name of it, but they're not very tall, but they're very, very thick, very fat at the base, and they produce this little fruit that Godfrey calls it bubble gum, because you chew it, and it's kind of like, as you chew it, it gets kind of like a slimy consistency, kind of like flaxseed, maybe when you boil flaxseed, and it's a little bit sweet. But I had some of this Zambian chewing gum. This was a church that Godfrey has been helping to raise funds to build the church, and they make their bricks from scratch. So they make the bricks there. They dry the bricks out in the sun. They cover it with hay first. It dries, and then they burn the bricks. And this church, they had laid the foundation already, and they started on the walls. But Godfrey had been raising some money, and we brought funds so that this was the builder. He can finish building that church, and that will allow them to have a facility. So they had it was like a 20 or 30 minute walk. There was another church already there, but the roof is of like a type of palm, and so when it's the rainy season, it doesn't hold up against the water, and so a lot of people, it makes it very challenging for them to go to church during the rainy season. So Godfrey had been working to raise money to help build them a good church where they can stay dry when they worship God during the rainy season. This was during the grain distribution. So Godfrey's brother who lives there in the village, he helped identify a number of the really needy families, and so we brought them all together, and we gave each a bag of corn. That's their the main grain that they have. And before that distribution, we had some time of studying with them together. So I shared some of the different lessons of Jesus on the seed and the soil, the gospel seed, and we talked about that to link the distribution with one of the lessons of Christ on receiving the gospel message. That was a great blessing there during that time. And then we had about a full day. It was 2 half days that we spent while we traveled there. And then we went to Livingstone, Zambia, where Victoria Falls is located, and had that opportunity to see that site. It was a wonderful experience, definitely breathtaking. But I want to share a thought here from Ellen White's book on voice, speech, and song, page 105. She says, speaking of Jesus, the great teacher brought his hearers in contact with nature, that they might listen to the voice which speaks in all created things. So nature speaks to us. It's one of God's lesson books. She says, as their hearts became tender and their minds receptive, he helped them to interpret the spiritual teachings of the scenes upon which their eyes rested. And I'll tell you, as I beheld that sight, I was wonderfully impressed. And the pictures don't do justice. Like when you're there and you see it, it's amazing, the sound of the water coming off. And again, this is the dry season, so you can see all the rocks, but they say during May and June, you can't even see the rocks. It's all water, and when you cross this bridge that we were crossing, you get soaking wet from all the water that splashes back up. But as we were there taking the scene in and just contemplating it, our hearts were just really moved by the beauty of nature. And from all the water that splashes, there was this beautiful rainbow. You can't really see it there in the picture, but there's this beautiful rainbow that had formed. And it brought my mind to the book of Revelation. If you go to Revelation chapter 4, when the Apostle John sees, he's taken in vision to the throne room in the heavenly sanctuary. Revelation chapter 4, verse 2 and 3. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. And so as I was taking in that view of this beautiful rainbow, I was thinking of Revelation chapter 4, of the rainbow that sits over God when he's sitting there on his throne. And there's two quotations I would like to share with you. Ministering angels were round about him, waiting and eager to do his will, while the rainbow of God's promise, which was seen as his covenant with Noah, was seen by John encircling the throne on high, a pledge of God's mercy to every repentant and believing soul. It is an everlasting testimony that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. It declares to the whole world that God will never forget his people in their struggle with evil. And so as I looked upon that scene of that amazing rainbow, it just brought my mind to these quotations that speak about what is the significance, what does it mean, what does that rainbow above the throne of God mean? And I love that last sentence. It declares to the whole world that God will never forget his people in their struggle with evil. It's a testament that God keeps his promises. God is faithful. By faith, let us look upon the rainbow round about the throne, the cloud of sins confessed behind it. The rainbow of promise is an assurance to every humble and contrite, believing soul that his life is one with Christ and that Christ is one with God. The wrath of God will not fall upon one soul that seeks refuge in him. God himself has declared, when I see the blood, I will pass over you. The bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant. Every time God himself sees the rainbow, it reminds him of the everlasting covenant that he has made with humanity. As we gaze upon the beautiful sight, we may be joyful in God, assured that he himself is looking upon this token of his covenant, and that he looks upon it. He remembers the children of earth to whom it was given. Their afflictions, perils, trials are not hidden from him. We may rejoice in hope, for the bow of God's covenant is over us. He will never forget the children of his care. How difficult for the mind of finite man to take in the peculiar love and tenderness of God and his matchless condescension when he said, I will look upon the bow in the cloud and remember thee. God remembers us, each and every one of us today. Every time we see that rainbow, it should remind us of God's covenant with us. And the last thing I want to mention before we close is this was a surprise. I was not expecting to have this experience. And this is a real one. It's a live one. Yeah, when Godfrey mentioned, when we were there, we saw Victoria Falls, and then he mentioned, there's a place here where you can walk with lions. I was like, real lions? And he said, yes, real living lions. And as I was there with the lions, my mind was just, taken to the future. We have a promise of new heavens and new earth. Let's turn, if you have your Bibles, go to Isaiah chapter 11. Yeah, and it wasn't just one, it was 4 of them. Now, after we were done taking all the pictures, then I realized that there was 2 other ones laying behind us. They were just sleeping, but it was it was a bit scary to be in there, not with one lion, but with 6 of them, and to not be harmed by them. It was quite a thing. But as we were there, my mind went to Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah chapter 11, here we have one of the promises of the new earth. Verse 6, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 6, the wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like an ox. And the sucking child shall play on the hole of an asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. These are serpents, okay? Other translations translated as serpents. Weaning children that are being weaned, playing with serpents. Lion eating together with the ox. Verse 9, they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Isaiah chapter 65. Isaiah chapter 65. Again, we have this promise repeated. Isaiah chapter 65, beginning with verse 17. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And then go down to verse 25. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. I want to encourage you today. This is something that I did as, again, I never thought that here on this earth I would have the experience of, petting and being, so close to the lion while I was there. I have the video. I wasn't able to get. The video was too big to put on this presentation, but I can show it to anyone if you want to see it. But while we were there posing with these lions, I was startled because I got hit in the face by the lion's tail as he was trying to shoo away the flies. But again, just being, I never thought I would touch a lion while here on this earth and not be harmed by them. But it brought my mind again to think of heaven, and I started thinking, I think we don't think of heaven enough. In the book of Revelation, chapters, chapter 21, 22, all describing heaven, right? And in the spirit of prophecy, if you've never read early writings, the chapter where Ellen White goes in vision, right, to heaven, and she sees and she describes heaven in such beautiful language. It really creates a desire and an anticipation to be there. And I just want to share a few lines from that chapter. I saw another field full of all kinds of flowers, and as I plucked them, I cried out, they will never fade. Next, I saw a field of tall grass, most glorious to behold. It was living green and had a reflection of silver and gold as it waved proudly to the glory of King Jesus. Then we entered a field full of all kinds of beasts, the lion, the lamb, the leopard, and the wolf, all together in perfect union. We passed through the midst of them, and they followed on peaceably after. Soon we heard his lovely voice again saying, "Come, my people, you have come out of great tribulation and done my will, suffered for me. Come in to supper, for I will gird you myself and serve you." We shouted, "Alleluia, glory," and entered into the city. And I saw a table of pure silver. It was many miles in length, yet our eyes could extend over it. I saw the fruit of the tree of life, the manna, the almonds, the figs, the pomegranates, grapes, and many other kinds of fruits. I asked Jesus to let me eat of the fruit, and he said, "Not now. Those who eat of the fruit of this land go back to earth no more. But in a little while, if faithful, you shall both eat of the fruit of the tree of life and drink of the water of the fountain of life." And he said, "You must go back to earth again and relate to others what I have revealed to you." Then an angel bore me gently down to this dark world. Sometimes I think I can stay here no longer. All of the things of earth look so dreary. I feel very lonely here, for I have seen a better land. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, then I would fly away and be at rest. I have a closing appeal for you. How many of you want to be there in that place, in the earth made new? Amen. You know, to be there, it's all of us have that promise extended to us. All of us have an opportunity to secure a place in that heavenly home. It's our decision to give our life and surrender to Jesus, to live with him day by day. You know, and heaven starts here. Heaven starts here in our relationship with God and seeking him and searching for him with all our hearts. And if we make that, if every day we commit our hearts to Jesus, we surrender our lives to him, we can have that hope, that blessed hope of going to this beautiful land, right? The heavenly Canaan, and to experience all these joys. I encourage you, if you have some time this afternoon, take a few minutes to read that chapter from the book Early Writings on this vision where she goes to heaven and she sees it. And again, the way she describes it, it just really awakens in our hearts a longing and desire to be there. But while we're still here on this earth, God has a work for us. The commission to go is for us today. And even if we can't go abroad overseas, there are people right here in our community that need to hear the message and be given an opportunity to respond to the gospel call. So let us stand as we sing our closing hymn, Seeking the Lost. Hymn 373.